Got a lot of NFL news for you today. Josh Dobbs was talking about how playing at Tennessee helped prepare him for the NFL, which I think is a fascinating idea as such, in large part because of the way that people talk about college offenses today, as though college offenses are the definition of regression. They talk about these offenses as though they are the very definition of everything that's wrong with football, especially at the quarterback position, and how very often it feels like college is not giving the NFL anything. It's not giving the NFL enough talent and enough competent players to work with. So I'll talk about that in a little bit because I kind of think it's not true. But also, I do think the idea that a quarterback out of a spread offense says that his spread offense prepared him for the NFL, I'm interested in exploring that idea. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Devonta Freeman and the Atlanta Falcons are close to finalizing a deal. And I think that this is the most important deal for them. And I don't think that that's an exaggeration or a stretch by any usage of the word, that this is the most important deal for Atlanta this offseason, right? Because Devonta Freeman was so key and so important to everything it was that Atlanta did last year. And I, again, don't think it's a stretch to say he was the initiator of their offense. That Julio Jones is always going to be a threat. But I don't know if you recall last year, the first 3 games, teams were hell-bent on taking Julio out of the offense. That you're going to beat us, right? Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to beat us, but you're going to have to beat us without your dude Julio. And that's when Devonta Freeman feasted. I mean, he was great all year, but those first 3 games were a revelation to absolutely everybody that, yeah, you cannot leave Devonta Freeman partially covered. And you certainly can't leave him out uncovered coming out of the backfield because he is simply too strong and too fast to be stopped. That, and when you consider the evolution of the NFL, the evolution of the game of football, where we want our running backs to be able to do more, Devonta Freeman is that guy. You can line him up at wide receiver. You can create mismatches on the inside as well, because he is capable of catching the football. And he is exactly the player that you want. Like when you look around the league at running backs, people are trying to get and cash in on specifically that kind of guy. I mean, for me, the reason why I was so high on Christian McCaffrey coming out of the draft, being drafted by the Panthers, is it gives the Panthers their own version of that. A guy that can catch the ball, a guy that's an incredible athlete, can run between the tackles if you ask him to, and take a little bit of pressure off of Cam. Well, Matt Ryan had that last year. In fact, he had that in 2 guys. He had that in Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. But Devonta specifically punished teams for giving too much attention to Julio, which I think eventually opened Julio up, a quarter of the way through the season. And you realize you can't put so much attention on Julio Jones because you will simply be destroyed elsewhere. So getting that deal done is hugely important. And I think Kyle Shanahan was able to do a lot of really interesting things with Devonta Freeman. And I think that the utility of Devonta Freeman goes beyond Kyle Shanahan. There is some point, I think, where Kyle Shanahan gets too much praise for what happened in Atlanta last year. Like the pieces were there. The players were there to make a run. And Kyle Shanahan is a talented offensive mind, and I don't want to make it seem like he's not talented, but he was made out to be a genius last year. And as a guy who lived in Texas and watched a lot of games with Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of the Texans, there were a lot of limitations to Kyle Shanahan offensively where Kyle Shanahan simply gave up on the run very often. And you're passing the ball, you're passing the ball, you're passing the ball. I'm a Redskins fan. Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of the Redskins. And again, you saw situations where they were very effective running the football. At the time, they had Alfred Morris, who was playing very well. And late in games, would fall in love with the passing game and pass the ball and pass the ball and pass the ball. Now, it didn't end up hurting Atlanta too much for much of the year because Devonta Freeman can be used in the passing game, right? So falling in love with the passing game, not such a bad idea if you've got Devonta Freeman. But we saw what happened in the Super Bowl. When you fell in love with the passing game, you've got a massive lead. Why aren't you running out the clock? Why aren't you trying to take time off the clock? Because Kyle Shanahan fell in love with the passing game and didn't rely on his all-pro running back to go ahead and pick up the yards necessary and run the time off the clock and shut the door on Tom Brady, that even Tom Brady can't beat a clock, right? Like, he can't beat time. He can beat you, but he can't beat time. And falling in love with that, the passing game, I think, was absolutely the wrong decision. He said so. He admitted it. We all saw it. We all know that that's a problem. And I think Steve Sarkisian comes in. I saw a lot of what he was able to do in the national title game with Alabama. That's very encouraging about the different creative ways that he's going to find to use Devonta Freeman. And I don't know how Steve Sarkisian's going to do at the NFL level. We've seen guys go from college to pro, flourish. We've seen guys go from college to pro and fail. And Sarkisian's going to be a new test to that. But I honestly believe that the guy very much understands the game. And I think that he understands a little bit better than Kyle Shanahan offensive balance. I believe that. Now, people could say, well, didn't they pass the ball too much in the national title game? You could say that, but the injury to Bo Scarborough, I think, changed the game plan a lot. Like, if they had Scarborough in and they're still passing the ball, well, then you've got a problem there. But quite frankly, I think he squeezed every ounce out of what was capable of that offense when Scarborough went down, calling trick plays and misdirections at just the right time each time. I'm thinking that Sarkisian's not going to be a gigantic drop-off from Shanahan and might actually be an improvement in some ways. That's what I think. And bringing Devonta Freeman back gives him the ability to go into the toy box and say, oh, I want to use this and I want to use this, and make the Atlanta Falcons, I think, a more effective unit than last year when you combine the fact as well that they now have a ton of experience. They have Super Bowl experience. This is a team that can go back. This is a team that's got the talent to go back. This is not a fluke. This doesn't feel like the Panthers the year before. And I'm not even calling the Panthers the year before a fluke, but a lot of it was predicated on us getting the best games possible from Cam Newton. That Cam had to play his best or the Panthers weren't winning. And if you could somehow take Cam out of a game, if you could somehow make Cam uncomfortable, the Panthers are done. I mean, that's not true for Atlanta. They're just weapons all over the place. And that's not even counting the defense, which is incredibly dominant and getting better all the time. Right? Like, I don't even think we've seen the best of Vic Beasley. We haven't seen it. We have not seen it. Yeah, this is not even the best that Atlanta can be defensively because they've made the priority of bringing back Devonta Freeman. They're able to re-sign him, and it's incredibly close. This is a team that can go back to a Super Bowl. I look at the rest of the NFC, and outside of Dallas, who are you afraid of? In all seriousness, outside of Dallas, who are you afraid of? I mean, there's nobody else scary in the NFC. Atlanta's it. Right? Like, if you could make it out of that division, which is possible that division could be very brutal, right? Like, if we see Cam bounce back and return to what he was the 2015 season, then that could potentially be scary. But the Buccaneers are going to get better, but they're not going to be winning the division just yet. And I think the Saints are going to get a little bit better, but again, they're not close. I just don't think that either of those teams have enough. And Carolina is going to be very good, but again, I don't think they have enough. So who else are you afraid of in the NFC? Can't be the Packers. They haven't gotten any better. Like, they're always a threat because Rodgers, but as we saw last year, you cannot beat a fully loaded football team with just Aaron Rodgers. It's not possible. There isn't anybody else in the NFC East that's scary. And out west, Seattle, sure. I just think that Seattle, because of the players that they've been losing to free agency, and I think a little bit of an offensive regression for them as well, like just Russell Wilson simply not having all of those weapons. And I think if you take away weapons from Russell Wilson, he's not on that Tom Brady level. Okay. We talk about Russell Wilson like he is. He isn't, where you can just randomly throw any bunch of dudes out there and Russell Wilson is going to make them look good. Like you can't give Russell Wilson Ben Hogan and expect him to go out there and elevate his game. Who else is scary in the NFC? The scariest team in the NFC is Atlanta. And there isn't a good reason that they shouldn't go back to the Super Bowl. There just honestly isn't. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Okay, well, there's one good reason why they shouldn't go back to the Super Bowl, and that's Dallas. That's the Cowboys. If Dak performs at a very high level again, that's a scary football team. You don't really want any parts of that team. But that's it. One other team in the entire conference is scary enough to really think, okay, well, maybe we might not go back. One. And they're still young, right? Like there's still a little bit of mountain climbing left for Dak Prescott and these Cowboys, I think, before we truly have to consider them like Super Bowl favorites. But you do have to consider them at least strong contenders. That's the only other scary team. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Just a football story that I came across. I was following the Adam Schefter podcast, Know Them from Adam, because Adam Schefter's, when is Adam Schefter ever wrong about a football story? Can you remember the last time that Adam Schefter's been wrong about a football story? Because I sure can't. Adam Schefter in the NFL and Adrian Wojnarowski in the NBA. Like, those are the two guys that I would follow like a lemming off a cliff because I've never seen them be wrong. Right? So I was following Adam Schefter, and Adam Schefter was talking to Jeremy Maclin, and they were talking about a number of things for last season, and Jeremy Maclin spent his last season in Kansas City. He's now in Baltimore looking to help out Joe Flacco, and that passing attack returned to what it was. And I heard something that maybe should have gotten more attention, in my opinion. Jeremy Maclin played last season with a torn groin. And I don't understand how that works. Call me weak, call me a wuss, call me a weenie if you want to. Jeremy Maclin played last season with a torn groin. And I don't know how that works. I pulled my groin once. I pulled it. I didn't tear it, mind you. All I needed was some rest. I just needed to not run. But I ran without stretching because, when you're young, you don't have to stretch. You can just take off running. As it turns out, as you get older, and I'm not even old, I'm 27, but as you get older, the stretching needs to become a part of your life. You need to start incorporating stretching or you're going to have a bad time. I pulled my groin and I thought I was dying. Walking anywhere was pain and agony. And I still had to go to all my classes and everything. And I thought, well, I might skip a few this week. I might not make it to school this week. I had to call my job and say, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I pulled my groin. And to be clear, I have gotten out of work on less than that. Like, pulling my groin, I thought was a legitimate reason to call into work, which is I can't stand. All right, I worked at a pizza restaurant at the time. There's a lot of moving around and stuff. Like, I can't stand, much less walk to the customers. What are you talking about? No, I'm not coming into work, okay, because my groin is pulled. I'm not standing up. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in bed until this feels better. And I feel like a lot of people would be with me on that. I don't think that I'm necessarily in a position where something is where it's not completely reasonable that you pulled your groin and you don't want to go anywhere. And maybe that's just a testament to how tough football players are. And maybe it's just a testament to how much football players love playing football. But I thought if I tore my groin, there aren't very many jobs that I'm coming into work the next day. And I'm going to continue to come into work. Especially knowing that the best way to heal a torn groin is simply to stop moving. You're going to play football? No, man. No. There isn't enough money on this earth. Well, first off, I'm not a tough guy. And I feel like I should come out and say this off the top because some people like to play the tough guy. Right? Some radio guys like to play the tough guy. We got Sean Hannity on this station. And I like Hannity. But Hannity talks very often about how he's got these combat skills and guns. As though that were to imply don't mess with Sean Hannity on the streets. Like looking at Sean Hannity, he's the guy you don't want to mess with. Okay, there's an all dark alley team, people you wouldn't meet in a dark alley. Sean Hannity is not all dark alley 17th team. He's not close. We're not considering him for the team. And you wouldn't consider me for the team either. There isn't enough money in this world to make me play football. I've seen what football players go through. I've seen how tough those guys are. I've seen what those guys have to sacrifice to keep playing. Where you have to just gloss over some injuries that most of us would consider major injuries. Okay? This is a sport that created Ronnie Lott, who cut off his own finger so that he could continue to play football. And I'm not cutting off my own finger to continue to play football. I love radio, and I'm not cutting off my own finger to continue to do radio. No. My own finger? Well, it's like while I'm awake? No, not about to happen. So I get it. Don't sign me up for football. There is no way that you get me to play football. I love football. I'll watch football. I'm not playing it, though. I know my place. And it ain't out there. So I got all of that. But there isn't a job that pays enough where you could get me to come into work when my groin is torn. And there isn't a job. There isn't. And people always have their money limits, right? Like I'll do anything just about for money. I will. Now, the amount of money is where we negotiate on these things. And I'm telling you right now, the amount of money that it would take for me to come into work, and my job is not playing football. My job is not that strenuous, okay? My job is not that hard to do. Standing in front of this microphone is not that hard. The amount of money that it would take for me to come into work if I tore my groin, they haven't created the number yet. We haven't counted that high. The number does not yet exist. We can find it if you want. Like if you want to negotiate with me, we can find the number. It does not yet exist. And this guy is out here playing football, a sport where the contracts are not guaranteed. A sport where, you look at your NBA counterparts and you're making fraction of what they make. That sport. And you're playing it with a torn groin. Look, I have much respect for you if you're going out and soldiering on like that. I'm just telling you, it couldn't be me. It couldn't be me. It could not be me. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Our phone number is 423-800-8949. Joshua Dobbs says Tennessee helped him prepare for the NFL. How? Next.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio. AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Cops say the double homicide at the Highland Memorial Gardens is believed to be gang-related. 2 bodies were discovered in the cemetery by former city councilman Manny Rico. Mr. Rico thought at first they were 2 workers sleeping, but on closer inspection it became obvious they had been punctured by hot lead. Families of the victims identify them as 20-year-old Thomas Holder and 17-year-old Rayshawn Underwood. The CPD called in the police academy cadets to help search the crime scene for evidence. 19-year-old Shane Finney was shot in the leg while trying to restrain a man he says attacked him and his friends at his home in Mansion Circle. According to Finney's testimony, 22-year-old Calvin Carter tried to rob him and his friends. There was a struggle over Carter's gun, and it went off, striking Finney in the leg. Finney and his friends restrained Mr. Carter until police arrived. Carter's mugshot shows his face bruised and bloodied. Kristen Keys, driver of an ambulance which crashed and killed a patient passenger, has turned herself in, facing charges of vehicular homicide. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio. AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect lots of clouds with some scattered showers out there through your nighttime. Overnight lows closer to 70. For Thursday, a wet day with showers and thunder showers likely. High temperatures closer to 80. For Friday, warm near 85 with another round of showers and storms returning late. Chattanooga's best kept secret is at Boyd Speedway. Come see the Sportsman Dirt Showdown Race number 3 this Saturday night with a bike race for the kids. Tickets and more at boydspeedway.net or Boyd Speedway on Facebook. And I'm Sports Team 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. E.J. Pelton Company, 332-3339.
The American dream. Home ownership. Are you building equity for your landlord? Why not build that equity for yourself and your family? Rent No More is a no obligation, no cost program. It's designed to teach you the steps necessary and to coach you all along the path to home ownership. Integrity Mortgage Group is owned and operated by local expert Jeff Woody Woodburn. Jeff has been in the mortgage business for over 15 years. Born and raised right here in the Chattanooga area. Jeff is also known as the Lone Ranger. He's helped countless hundreds. Really eager to help you too. So don't wait. Come on, call Danielle right now. You need to reserve your spot for this exciting, informative event. Space is limited, so call now to reserve yours. It's free. 423-517-8004. 423-517-8004. Call 423-517-8004. Hey, Nooga Radio is proud to partner with Integrity Mortgage Group to bring you Rent No More. Reserve your spot for this exciting, informative event. Space is limited, so call now to reserve yours. It's free. 423-517-8004. 423-517-8004. Call 423-517-8004. Stop building equity for your landlord. Live the American dream. Home ownership with Rent No More. We'll see you there.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis. You know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is. Brainerd Road. Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better than Hollywood. It's right here. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road.
You love me. You really love me.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern. The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio. AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose and AM 1240, 92.7 FM. So Josh Dobbs, the former Tennessee Volunteer, unless you know you're always a Volunteer, which I'm sure Butch Jones could package that into some kind of cliche, so that sounds cooler. The man who gave us 5-star hearts and champions of life. I'm sure he could package that in some way that sounds very, very cliche and somewhat inspirational. Not inspirational enough, but sort of inspirational. I'm sure he could do that better than I could. Regardless, Josh Dobbs, the former Tennessee Volunteer and now Pittsburgh Steeler, was talking about how Tennessee helped his transition to the NFL. And here's the quote from Dobbs. Well, coming to this setting, they actually showed me what we ran a lot of traditional offense in college. We ran the same play, same scheme, same progressions, the same runs that I've run in college, whether it's red zone or in the field. So it's a little different, of course, in a huddle rather than getting signals from the sideline. But outside of that, it's still the same plays, still the same scheme, still the same type of verbiage I was running at the college level to help me translate over to the NFL, which I am sure helps a lot, right? The idea that you were expecting offenses to look wildly different when you got to the NFL, and then you showed up and it didn't really look that different, I'm sure helps a ton. Now, here's the thing. Being in a huddle is very different from getting your calls from the sideline, because you don't have to make sure everyone's on the same page, right? In college, everybody just looks at the sideline and everybody gets to play, right? They hold that gigantic sign up, and on the sign, there's Lightning McQueen, a picture of Jim Rome, a hot dog, and the color orange, and everybody knows, okay, this is obviously the play we're running. So you don't have to figure out make sure everyone gets on the same page. In the NFL, you absolutely have to, because that does not work. And I think that plays a small part in the NFL transition, but I don't think the college offenses necessarily get enough credit for being very complex. Like, there's this idea that you're in a college offense and there's no scheming really, and so you're not prepared for the NFL. And I think that's insane. If Dak Prescott showed us nothing from last year, it's that you can come from college and be ready to play in the NFL without playing in some kind of overly complex offense. I think the NFL offenses and what a quarterback is required to do, that's changed. It's weird to me that quarterbacks from the past, right? Because we have to have these conversations all the time. The old dudes talking about back in my day conversation. The quarterbacks that used to play in the NFL, where the offenses, I feel like you can acknowledge, were not necessarily as complex, and the quarterback was not asked to do as much. Teams ran the ball a lot. We're asking quarterbacks to throw the ball at a very high level. And then quarterbacks did not come in year one to start. Back then, you wrote it out on the bench. They were trying to figure out how to keep a veteran in front of you as long as humanly possible. Right? Like that, those two things are huge differences that are going to make the quarterback of today look awful. Like, you're expected to come out of college and immediately pick up on the speed of an NFL game. College offenses haven't gotten less sophisticated. I think they're still very sophisticated and getting more complicated all the time. I think where a college offense and an NFL offense differ is what they ask you to do after the huddle. When you get to the line and you realize, oh, the defense is lined up very differently than what we thought was going to happen here. Where a defense shows you one look and then they shift into another one to confuse you, where they disguise their looks. Then what do? This is where college offenses and where young quarterbacks coming out of college today are struggling, because your college offense doesn't require you to do that, because your college defense doesn't require you to do that. Most college defenses are not disguising their plays. Most college defenses are not playing the chess match with you. If you line up and you've got the right play to beat the defense, you're probably going to beat the defense if you're talented enough. Usually. And that's the difference. And this is where I think college helps Josh Dobbs a lot in terms of, okay, so Tennessee had a surprisingly complex offense. But I don't know. Tennessee fans, the phone number is 423-800-8949. You call and tell me, because the Tennessee games I watched last year, I didn't watch a large variety of plays. I felt like I watched some version of the same 5 plays. I didn't feel like I was watching a very complex offense at Tennessee, right? Like the verbiage might be very similar to an NFL offense. Some of the plays might be similar to an NFL offense, but the variety of plays that you're going to be asked to run in the NFL is going to be wildly different, in large part because you get to that line of scrimmage and you go, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like that look that this defense is giving me. And you're going to have to change some things around. Now, I think the NFL has made this easier on a lot of college guys, where they will run a play, or they'll call a play and then they'll call a kill play. So they call 2 plays in the line of scrimmage. And by the way, Dak Prescott abused this last year. They call 2 plays in the line of scrimmage. You step up to the line, you don't like the look of the defense, and then you'll call kill, and you just run the second play. Everybody knows, okay, it's the second one also. So you don't have to sit there and do what Peyton Manning used to have to do, where Peyton Manning's pointing at a guy and saying, no, you come over here, and now my running back that's beside me, I actually want you behind me. We're going to be in the I formation. And he's directing traffic in a way that's very complex and something that you would not expect an NFL rookie or a second or third year player to be able to do. It's just hard to do in the heat of the moment, in the heat of play clocks running down. It's very easy to say, we're calling 2 plays. You don't like the first one, kill to the second one. It's much easier to do. And I think guys pick up on that just a little bit easier. And then you could introduce the other parts of it piecemeal. And it was very effective for Dak. I would not be shocked if more and more teams try and do it this way. This is where I worry, actually. And I am shifting a little bit here. But as a guy who is a fan of Deshaun Watson and would love to see him succeed in the NFL, this is where I worry about Deshaun Watson, because Bill O'Brien is not trying to be doing any of this kill stuff. Bill O'Brien is not calling 2 plays. Bill O'Brien, and what makes his quarterback system so complex, is he wants his quarterbacks to adjust everything at the line. We're going to call a play, and if it works, it works. But if it doesn't work, we need you to adjust not a little bit, everything. Everything. Like this idea that Deshaun Watson is coming in to the facility and getting that extra work in, and people are very proud of him for doing that. Nah, man, he's going to need it. Bill O'Brien's adjustments are complex beyond imagination, quite frankly. And so, yeah, I don't know how Deshaun Watson's going to fare over there, because very smart guys get into the NFL and fail. This is not an issue of intelligence. This is an issue of processing things very quickly and giving the answer back very, very quickly. It's not about intelligence. It's about speed of processing. That's what it's all about. That's the name of the game in the modern NFL, right? Because say whatever it is that you want about Robert Griffin III, it doesn't look like he's getting he's grasping an NFL offense. But I mean, he finished 2 degrees in 3 years with something like a 3.8 GPA. Like, that's an intelligent guy who isn't processing this information quickly enough because it's just hard to do. Right? Like, Colin Kaepernick didn't look like he was getting it. But it's not about intelligence. Colin Kaepernick's a smart guy. The processing of that information just seemed incredibly difficult. Blaine Gabbert, smart guy, strong arm. Like, when Blaine Gabbert got drafted by the Jaguars, laugh at them all you want to. None of us thought Blaine Gabbert was going to be as bad as Blaine Gabbert wound up being. But what? The information, you have to process it quickly. When guys wash out in the NFL, in the modern NFL, it's usually not because they're not smart. It's because they're not processing the information quickly enough. And that even with a lot of practice, it's hard. Much less a guy like a Johnny Manziel who didn't practice at all. Yeah, like, it's going to be hard for you, especially. You don't even have the information to process. So I don't necessarily know where you go from there. All I'm saying is Joshua Dobbs, we know he's a smart guy. Can he process this information quickly? I think the verbiage and all of this stuff being the same in college as it is in the NFL, for him, that's going to help him a little bit. Like, the more of that information that you have, the more you now just have to go through the repetitions of practicing it so that you can just immediately recognize things. Because I'm looking at the NFL Network, right? And I see a guy like David Carr. David Carr, by the way, could have been a good NFL quarterback, but there was no offensive line where he was playing, and he just got beaten up. And he was punch drunk by the end of it. This is a guy, he talks about NFL offenses. He understands it. He gets it. Why isn't David Carr in the league? Partially because the offensive line, but because it was so bad, he never got the time to learn to process that information. You look at his brother, Derek Carr, over with the Raiders, and what? He's got the time to process the information. Their offensive line is very, very good, possibly the second best offensive line in the entire league, right up there with the Cowboys and the Titans. You get the time to process that information. Dak Prescott gets the time to process that information. That offensive line is very good, and you get to learn this. Now, if Dallas were to ever, as time goes on, have an offensive line that regresses, that isn't as good in the future, he already has the practice of processing the information, right? Which I think was a great advantage to Tom Brady early in his career. Brady got the time to practice. So even when the Patriots didn't have elite offensive lines in the middle of his career, he was still able to destroy teams because the information, he already understood it and how to process it very quickly. You don't necessarily get that chance on every team, especially if the team that drafts you is a very bad team with a very bad offensive line. Josh Dobbs has the luxury of coming to an NFL team where you're the third guy on the roster. Landry Jones is in front of you, and Ben Roethlisberger is QB1. So you don't necessarily have to come in and be the savior of a franchise. And I think that is a blessing in disguise. And if you're Deshaun Watson, you don't have to come into a team that needs you to make the playoffs, because they made the playoffs twice with Tom Savage and Brian Hoyer. They don't need you. The Steelers don't need Joshua Dobbs. Maybe one day they will, but they don't right now. And that, to me, is the blessing in disguise of the quarterback that's taken in the 4th round. You're Dak Prescott. This team's already got a great offensive line. They're drafting a great running back. They've got a great wide receiver. And at the time with Tony Romo, they had a great quarterback. So you didn't have to come in and have that pressure of being the guy. I feel really bad for quarterbacks in this modern age where you get drafted by a garbage team and they expect you to come in, because there's only one Andrew Luck. Right? Like, the Colts were awful without him. There's only one Andrew Luck. Right? Everybody else, it's kind of slim pickings. I do believe that there is a little bit also of a blessing in disguise there for Marcus Mariota, where the Titans had an offensive line. John Robinson was doing a great job of building this football team when they drafted him. And under no circumstances did they plan on drafting Marcus Mariota with no offensive line. But I feel also putting a team on your back. Josh Dobbs has a little bit of practice in doing that as well, where they need him to go out there and get points. And so he goes out there and gets points by any means particularly necessary. That's a little bit of practice as well. Now, I think the Steelers are actually hoping that Josh Dobbs becomes a good quarterback, because Ben Roethlisberger last season was sort of entertaining the idea of, well, maybe I'll retire. I don't know, because Ben Roethlisberger is a diva. He likes having the attention. He likes all eyes being on him. He's like the second coming of Brett Favre in that way. And so entertaining the idea of retirement is something that you're not going to want to put up with if you're the Steelers. You're that organization where every summer you've got to go out there and you've got to court Ben Roethlisberger and make him feel good about himself to get him to come back, because he is getting to that point in his career, especially with his playing style, where he has taken the punishment and taken the beating and taken the abuse. You want to be able to be like the Packers if you are the Steelers right now and say, you know what? I don't know if you're going to retire or not. We need you to make up your mind, because if you do not make up your mind, we will move on without you. And we don't seem to have any problems doing that. Watch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. We're going to shift gears a little bit to the NBA, which, by the way, I had someone give me a compliment the other day on NBA coverage. That I talk a lot of NBA. NBA fans in Chattanooga are an underserved market. But I was going through CBS Sports, and they had an article today on the biggest draft busts from every team. From every team. And Sheldon Williams was the pick for the Hawks as their biggest draft bust, the number 5 overall pick in 2006. And I disagreed with that a little bit. Marvin Williams, taken the year before, was the 2nd overall pick. And there was an idea that Marvin Williams was going to be this very athletic player that was going to be an impact franchise guy for the Hawks, and ended up not panning out whatsoever. Granted, Sheldon Williams, that wasn't a great pick either. But I went through the Hawks draft picks since the merger. And I'll be honest with you, Atlanta hasn't had any explosively bad draft picks where you draft this guy and you feel like you've set your franchise back forever. Right? Because they could have drafted at that point, if they, instead of Sheldon Williams, Brandon Roy, Rudy Gay, J.J. Redick, Rajon Rondo, and they could have had Paul Millsap to start his career there if that's what they wanted as well. And they ended up taking Sheldon Williams, who, waste of a pick ultimately, especially when you consider that Sheldon Williams is one of those guys where you were just like, you know what, the ceiling's not that high, but he comes in and he's ready to play NBA ball. 4-year starter at Duke. Did nothing. Did absolutely nothing. So Marvin Williams is I think a better pick because he is a higher draft pick. Like the number 2 overall pick is a guy that after number 1, like you shouldn't be able to miss on, right? Like in Kevin Durant's draft, he was the number 2 overall pick. Like you really couldn't miss. It was Greg Oden and Kevin Durant. And I still believe you couldn't have missed on Greg Oden had Greg Oden's knees held up in any particular kind of way. And I don't think that we could have predicted or foreseen what that guy's knees would have been like. But had he been healthy, I mean, I like that as a number 1 overall pick. Kevin Durant is the number 2. Like your number 2 pick should be that much of a no-brainer. Like the top 3 guys, the reason why the lottery picks are the top 3 picks are because like that should be, so far as anybody can tell, a no-brainer. And yeah, Marvin Williams, Atlanta. But nothing explosively bad, right? Like Atlanta hasn't had their Hasheem Thabit or their Adam Morrison or their Kwame Brown. Guys that are immediately recognizable as being terrible, terrible draft picks, right? Like Cleveland had a couple of years back in the same draft with Andrew Wiggins They drafted Anthony Bennett with the number 1 overall pick, and I immediately knew before they drafted him, I said they better not draft him. Anthony Bennett doesn't play any defense. He's out of shape. I don't like him as a pick. They drafted him. Most teams have at least one explosively obvious bad draft pick, right? Like I said, Charlotte's got Adam Morrison. Cleveland's got Anthony Bennett. Detroit's got Darko Milicic. Atlanta doesn't even have that. Like the guys that I rounded up as the main big busts in Atlanta draft history, AC Law, Sheldon Williams, and Marvin Williams. And yeah, those are the biggest busts in draft history. And if you asked me how their careers went, how long any of those guys ended up being in the league, I could give you any number I want, and you wouldn't have known. But let's put it this way. Kwame Brown played 12 years in the league. AC Law, Sheldon Williams, and Marvin Williams combined for 10. But to Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh-made pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jet's Pizza. If you eat out at Jet's in Hickson or take home your steaming deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jet's. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken, or bread with bacon, antipasta, or Greek salad. Jet's Pizza at Buy Low near the S-Curves. Open till 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can order online or have it delivered. jetspizza.com. That's jetspizza.com. Or call them now. They'll have it ready when you get there. 757-1616. That's 757-1616.
Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484. Are you looking for a gospel-oriented, covenantal, family-friendly Reformed church? Dayton Reformed Presbyterian Church is a body of Christ-centered believers gathering for worship on the Lord's Day from around southeastern Tennessee. Our congregation is reformational in its outlook. It has a traditional worship service regulated by the Word of God. Prayer, singing the Psalms, reading God's holy word, teaching, preaching the Bible, the administration of the sacrament. Dayton Reformed Pres, committed to the authority of the Bible as the inerrant, infallible Word of God. As Westminster Confession of Faith directs every Christian, we aim to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. As a Reformed church, our purpose is teaching and preaching the gospel, making and training disciples of Jesus Christ, taking dominion for our Lord's sake by applying God's holy and perfect law to every area of life. We would be honored to have you join us for worship. Dayton Reformed Presbyterian, this Sunday morning at 11 at Dayton Community Chapel, 184 Mulberry Avenue, Dayton. Click DaytonRPC.org. Click DaytonRPC.org. 184 Mulberry Avenue, Dayton.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage.
Hart Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back. The field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chucks him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway, here at Live
on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
The voice of NASCAR.
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga, WSDG Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
Tropical storm Cindy surges along the Gulf Coast.
We've certainly started to see the heavier downpours.
A police officer attacked at the airport in Flint, Michigan.
We are investigating this incident as an act of terrorism.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Dave Barrett. It's churning more than 100 miles southeast of Galveston and could hit southeast Texas in the next day. Tropical storm Cindy has 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds. That's how windy it's been around Myrtle Grove, Louisiana, on the Mississippi River Delta. It's bringing rain, stormy around Slidell, Louisiana. There's a coastal surge as well. All this bad enough for Governor John Bell Edwards to declare a state of emergency in Louisiana.
It's a weird weather event that primarily consists of threats of rain and flooding, but there also is a potential for wind damage as well.
The governor tells residents don't get complacent.
Just because you don't see your area in the cone of the storm as it approaches, don't take this lightly. Much of the severe weather will occur to the east and to the northeast of the cone.
WWL's Jim Hanzo says New Orleans will likely feel the effects.
Mayor Mitch Landrieu says the city remains on the bad side of Tropical Storm Cindy as it heads west.
Everything on the east side of it is going to get the wind, the rain, and for us, the potential flooding in the event that the rain comes. So we're not out of it yet.
Mayor Landrieu also wants people to be wary of tropical storm force gusts of wind and to watch out for road closures and potentially dangerous standing water.
CBS's Don Champion has been getting rained on in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Some places in this area have seen 8 inches of rain. Another 8 inches of rain is possible before the storm moves north.
In Alabama, Steve Arthur is with the Baldwin County Sheriff's Department. In Fort Morgan, a kid was very close to the surf today. Waves were running 12 to 14 feet.
The father saw a huge wave coming ashore, yelled for his son to move, but the wave had picked a log up that was between the young man and the waterfront and slammed that log into the back and head of the young man.
That boy died.
It's a very unfortunate situation. Our hearts go out to the family.
A police officer in stable condition after being stabbed today at the airport in Flint, Michigan.
I saw a cop and he was down and there was a whole bunch of blood everywhere.
When the subject went up to the officer and stabbed him, he continued to exclaim Allah, and he made a statement something to the effect of, you have killed people in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and we are all going to die.
FBI Special Agent David Tulis says they're treating this as an act of terror. Suspect Amor Fatoui is under arrest. An apartment linked to him has now been raided in Montreal. Wall Street, the Dow closed down 57 points. The NASDAQ was up 45. S&P dropped 1. Now this.
With Quicken Loans, the outdated and complicated mortgage process is a thing of the past. Our simple process helps you understand all the details so you can be confident that you're getting the right mortgage. Take your mortgage to the next level and call 800-QUICKEN or go completely online with Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. No matter how you prefer to work with us, we've got what you need to get you through the mortgage process with ease. For 7 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. And for the third year in a row, they also ranked us highest in the nation for mortgage servicing. Whether you're looking to purchase or refinance, now is the time. The rate today on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.875%, APR 4.23%. Call 800-QUICKEN or get started online at rocketmortgage.com. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
Last week's shooter in Alexandria, Virginia, had a list with him with names of 6 members of Congress. James Hodgkinson also had a history of anger management issues. FBI Special Agent Timothy Slater says they have recovered some items.
The shooter rented a storage unit in Alexandria in which we found a laptop computer, in excess of 200 rounds of ammunition.
Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana, now in fair condition, his condition upgraded from serious. Overseas, ISIS has blown up a major mosque in Iraq, in Mosul. It claims the U.S. did that, but a coalition spokesman says we did not strike in that area where the historic Grand Al-Nouri Mosque is located. Russian hacking in last year's election.
As fall progressed, we saw a progression of scanning and probing activities around voter registration databases.
Former Homeland Security Chief Jay Johnson told a Senate panel that hacking was detected in 21 states. You're listening
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news. Now,
cops say the double homicide at the Highland Memorial Gardens is believed to be gang-related. 2 bodies were discovered in the cemetery by former city councilman Manny Rico. Mr. Rico thought at first they were 2 workers sleeping, but on closer inspection it became obvious they had been punctured by hot lead. Families of the victims identify them as 20-year-old Thomas Holder and 17-year-old Rayshawn Underwood. The CPD called in the police academy cadets to help search the crime scene for evidence. 19-year-old Shane Finney was shot in the leg while trying to restrain a man he says attacked him and his friends at his home in Mansion Circle. According to Finney's testimony, 22-year-old Calvin Carter tried to rob him and his friends. There was a struggle over Carter's gun, and it went off, striking Finney in the leg. Finney and his friends restrained Mr. Carter until police arrived. Carter's mugshot shows his face bruised and bloodied. Kristen Keys, driver of an ambulance which crashed and killed a patient passenger, has turned herself in, facing charges of vehicular homicide. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect lots of clouds with some scattered showers out there through your nighttime. Overnight lows closer to 70. For Thursday, a wet day with showers and thunder showers likely. High temperatures closer to 80. For Friday, warm near 85 with another round of showers and storms returning late. Chattanooga's best kept secret is at Boyd Speedway. Come see the Sportsman Dirt Showdown Race number 3 this Saturday night with a bike race for the kids. Tickets and more at BoydSpeedway.net or Boyd Speedway on Facebook. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Clutch and Keon Rose. here on Nooga Radio. So I was taking a peek because Vegas, South Point Sportsbook in Las Vegas specifically, they released their lines for the over and under wins for the college football season. So this is a little bit more specific than before. And so I took a peek at the Big 12. 7.5 wins is what they've given to Texas, that's my team. I'm going to hold them to that. I feel like Texas can find 7 or 8 victories on that schedule, even though they have underachieved greatly in recent years. I don't really want to break down how and where. I feel like one of the things about covering the SEC is that the team that I root for is not in the SEC, so I don't ever have to be critical of my own team. I don't really have to be critical of my own team. Nevertheless, I got some NFL news as well. Devonta Freeman is close to a deal with the Atlanta Falcons, is what news out of both sides are saying. That's from both camps. So we're getting close to this. It'll probably wind up getting done pretty soon here, before the next month. I believe the deadline is July, middle of July. I want to say the 15th off the top of my head. But regardless, I do think this is going to get done. Devonta Freeman was looking for a lot of money. And so I think that you do have to consider that. Is he deserving of the money? Obviously. But you play in a sport with a salary cap, and he's a running back. Possibly the position being the most devalued in recent years. Now, you can argue that when you look at the NFL draft, if running back is a position that we don't care about anymore, somebody tell the Jaguars when they drafted Leonard Fournette, and somebody tell the Panthers when they drafted Christian McCaffrey that running backs are something that we don't care about anymore. And that's not even counting the other running backs taken in the draft, taken in the first round even. They're just those two guys being in the top 10 tells you that the running back position has value. It's just what you are looking for in a running back necessarily. Like, you need a running back in the NFL. I say this all the time because people say, well, the running back position is dying out. You don't need a running back. Yeah, you do. You need a running back if you want to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. You don't need a running back like you need a quarterback, but you need a running back. And different things have different weight to it, right? Like, for instance, your car. Which is more important, your engine or your wheels? You need both. I would say having a good engine, having a functioning engine is a greater percentage of having a car that works. But if you have 4 flat tires, you're not going anywhere. You might move a little bit without all your tires, but you're not really going anywhere without your tires, right? Like, that's how this is. Like, quarterback is the most important position on the field, but we act like if you have a quarterback, you don't need anything else. Yes, you do. Most quarterbacks are not Peyton Manning. Most quarterbacks are not Tom Brady. Everybody else needs all the other parts, right? Like, the conversation of whether or not Dak Prescott is actually a good quarterback is a conversation because you look at all the other pieces around him. And it's like, why can't it be both? Why can't he be a good quarterback? And why can't the Cowboys also have a good running game, an offensive line, and wide receiving core? Why does it have to be one or the other? You have to have all the parts. You cannot win in the NFL with no running back unless you have the most elite of quarterbacks, right? Like, Andrew Luck is going to win you some games even without a running game, even without an offensive line. But how many games Andrew Luck's winning without T.Y. Hilton? Like, he still needs a receiver. You can't have an engine in a car with no wheels. You can't have a quarterback that you consider elite and no running game and no passing game and no O-line and no defense. Most quarterbacks in the NFL that are considered good have talent around them. Like, you end up in these conversations of, well, is Kirk Cousins really a good quarterback? Is Dak Prescott really a good quarterback? Yeah, they are. The Cowboys tried the Cowboys experiment with Brandon Weeden. How'd that go? Brandon Weeden was quarterback of the same team that Dak Prescott is the quarterback of. How did that go for Weeden? Because if we could have had Brandon Weeden and it made sense, it would have worked out. It didn't. Why? Because he's not a good quarterback. Dak is. Like, you just because you have all the pieces doesn't mean that it's going to work without a good quarterback. And just because you have a good quarterback doesn't mean he's going to work without any of the pieces. So, yeah, you need the running game if you're Atlanta. Matt Ryan reached, statistically, Brady levels of good. But he had that level of goodness because he's got Julio Jones, who, for my money, is the best receiver in the game. He's got Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman in the running game. A very solid offensive line, one that's not very big, but they're fast. And so a lot of the stretch runs that Atlanta likes to do, they can continue doing. They're a very good football team in that way. And they need Devonta Freeman if a Super Bowl run, a second Super Bowl run, is something that they're going to want to do. Especially if they're going to want to try and say, hey, we're going to go there and finish the job this time. You need a running game, which is something that was not acknowledged enough before, which is why they lost the Super Bowl, because Kyle Shanahan forgot about the running game, fell in love with the passing game. You've got to have all the components. There's no such thing as, well, the NFL, you don't need a running back anymore. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Now, where you put the value on that guy and how good do you think that guy can be, well, that's entirely up to you, because I'll also posit you this. The Dallas Cowboys ran out there with Robin Turbin. And it wasn't, their offense didn't really open up until they got Ezekiel Elliott. Right? It's not just like, oh, anybody can run behind that offensive line. Oh, anybody can play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, the players still have to be good. Now, they don't have to be elite. The more good players you have on a team, and I feel like this should be entirely obvious, and I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but there are many in the media who make this out to be the case. The more good players you have, the wider your margin of error. No single player on your team has to be perfect if everybody is good. Right? Like, say whatever it is that you want about Tom Brady. The reason why I respect Brady so much, and the reason why I think he's such a great quarterback, is there are a lot of games that he plays where he has to be perfect. He doesn't have elite receivers. He doesn't have an elite running game a lot of the time. And like 4 years ago, they didn't even have an elite offensive line. Like, he has to play darn near perfect for them to be good. And they are, because he does. I don't want to have to put my young quarterback in a position where he has to be perfect. So yes, if I need a guy, I will draft a Leonard Fournette, right? Make Blake Bortles' margin of error widen up. If I need a guy, I will go and draft Christian McCaffrey. And if I'm the Atlanta Falcons and I've already built something here that can work, your window of opportunity, your striking distance is now, right now. Devonta Freeman is your running back. He wants more money. Give the man his money. Give him his money. Because you need him. That way, Matt Ryan doesn't have to be perfect. Julio Jones doesn't have to be perfect. And everybody can be really good. And then when you get those performances where everybody is perfect, you'll just destroy the competition. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. So the Las Vegas Sportsbook, South Point Sportsbook in Las Vegas, has released a 130-team list of their over and unders for every conference. And in the SEC, Alabama is obviously the favorite, 10.5 wins, which again, Vegas loves to do this. The half wins is where they try and sucker people. If you see a half win, Vegas is not necessarily sure. They're not sure if Tennessee is going to win 8 games or 7 games. They've got Tennessee at 7.5. I'm sure Tennessee can win over 8 games, or over 7.5 games. I'm sure they can win 8. 8 is very possible. 7 is also very possible. That's a tricky bet, right? I wouldn't make that bet. I wouldn't take 10.5 at Alabama either, because Alabama could just as easily win 10 as they could win 11. I don't see, when you look at Alabama's schedule, it gets to the point where it's just very difficult to see which one is the one that they will lose. But this is not the greatest Alabama team of all time. So you got to imagine they'll lose 1, but they might not. They might get all the breaks. The issue, though, is some of these teams, I feel like it's a no-brainer. Vegas has Texas A&M at 7.5. And that's not even a tricky bet to me, because I looked at Texas A&M's schedule. I can't find 7 victories on this schedule. I've tried at numerous points. I do not see 7 wins here. And I talked to an Aggies friend of mine just to make sure that I'm not crazy and that my bias is not coming through, because I grew up hating the Aggies. So it could be playing a part here. I don't see 7.5 victories on this schedule. He agreed with me, and he didn't see 7 wins. Right? Like, this is an obvious one to take. UCLA is their first game on the schedule. No, that's not a win. Then they play Nicholls State. That's a win. So that's one. They play Louisiana Lafayette. That's another one. You really think that they're going to beat Arkansas September 23rd? I don't. I just don't. South Carolina right now is playing good enough defense. And if Jacob Bentley is able to make the leap here, if he starts to look anything like the guy we thought he was looking like last year, I don't see how they beat South Carolina. But I'll be nice, and I'll give them South Carolina. I don't think so, but I'll be nice and give them South Carolina. So that's 3 wins. Then they play Alabama. No, they're not winning that one. They're playing Florida. They're not winning that one. They're playing Miss State. Nick Fitzgerald. They're not winning that one. Auburn. They're not winning that one either. So they have 3 wins so far, at which point they play New Mexico, which I will give them. Ole Miss, which I will give them. And then LSU, who they're not beating. They have 5 wins. I have to give them South Carolina to get them to 5. I don't even think they beat South Carolina. Texas A&M's team, who's their quarterback? They don't have a quarterback. And Kevin Sumlin has proven to us time and time again, if he doesn't have a quarterback, he can't win football games, right? Like, he's like the anti-Jim McElwain. We've seen Jim McElwain show us 2 years now. If my quarterback is Austin Appleby, I can still somehow win the East. I've never seen anything like that before. He's got no quarterback, right? He got part of a season of Will Grier, and that's the last time he had a quarterback. Kevin Sumlin is the opposite of that. You take away his quarterback, I don't know how many games Kevin Sumlin can win. And Texas A&M does a really great job of starting the season fired up and fading at the end. I think that this year, going to do us all a favor and just start to stink from the beginning. There is, outside of Ole Miss, there is almost no SEC school on this schedule that I can guarantee a Texas A&M victory. They could beat some of the teams. Like, they really could beat Florida. I just don't see how. They really could beat South Carolina. I just don't see how. Like, if 4.5 wins would be, if I were a sports book, would be my over and under for Texas A&M. I don't see 7 on this schedule. Like, if I would take the under drastically on A&M. And I feel like that's the only SEC school where I feel that confident, right? Because Kentucky's at 7. But Kentucky can get to 7. Arkansas's at 6. I think Arkansas could do more than 6. I mean, Brett Bielema better do more than 6. Might riot over there, but I think they could get more than 6. Missouri's at 6. That one's hairy, right? Because they could do 5. They could do 7. 6 is a odd spot to put them, and their schedule is not, overly tough. See if I can pull up the schedule. It gave me last year's schedule. But the Missouri schedule is not overly tough. So I think at 6 wins, that's not out of the realm of possibility for them. Missouri's schedule is here as cited. They start with Missouri State, which they could win. They play South Carolina, which I wouldn't give them that one. Purdue, they could win that one. Auburn, I wouldn't give them that one. They could beat Kentucky. They won't beat Georgia. They could beat Idaho. They could beat Connecticut. And then Florida, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas, I wouldn't say Missouri could win. But, Missouri surprised all of those teams before. So what do I know? I'm saying 6 wins is very possible for Missouri. And then you got some out of conference games that really helped them out a ton. Ole Miss is at 5.5, which I think is another nice one to take. I don't see Ole Miss winning more than 5 games. I think they win 5. And then South Carolina is at 5, which I think I would take the over on that. I think South Carolina is going to be better than a lot of people think. I really do. I learned a lot from them in that win over Tennessee that they had last year. That they're a very smart defensive team. Will Muschamp has got his fingerprints all over that defense. And offensively, I like the direction that they're heading in. I don't have any problems with it. I really don't. So I'm cool with that. And for those of you who want to know what we think about Lane Kiffin, hey, where's Florida Atlantic? Aren't they Conference USA? There they are. They're 4. Vegas thinks that Florida Atlantic wins 4 games. So I expect the trash talk to flow in his direction very freely. I anticipate that greatly. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Another news story that, again, just blew my mind. It blew my mind completely away. Jeremy Maclin. Jeremy Maclin played last season. He told Adam Schefter that he played last season with a torn groin. With a torn groin. And I could not do it. I absolutely could not do it. Under no circumstances is the groin an area that I mess with to play anything. Okay? And I'm not weak-willed, but I'm not a strong man either. I feel like I adequately assess my injuries and act accordingly. That's what I think. Okay? I'm not a wuss, but also I wouldn't play football because the game is dangerous. It looks dangerous to me. And I don't do well with broken things, bones or otherwise. Okay? But if I have a torn groin, and my job is just to be here in front of this microphone and talk to you about sports. If I have a torn groin, I don't come into work. And I don't think that you should blame me for not coming into work. If that's me. I have a torn groin, I don't come into work. I call him up and I say, hey, Mike, I can't come into work today. I actually discovered that I cannot walk. I pulled my groin once and didn't go to work. I pulled it. Didn't tear it, pulled it. I'm just telling you, man, it could not be me. It absolutely could not be me. Clutch with Keon Rose on M1240 and 92.7 FM.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Cops say the double homicide at the Highland Memorial Gardens is believed to be gang-related. 2 bodies were discovered in the cemetery by former city councilman Manny Rico. Mr. Rico thought at first they were 2 workers sleeping, but on closer inspection it became obvious they had been punctured by hot lead. Families of the victims identify them as 20-year-old Thomas Holder and 17-year-old Sean Underwood. The CPD called in the police academy cadets to help search the crime scene for evidence. 19-year-old Shane Finney was shot in the leg while trying to restrain a man he says attacked him and his friends at his home in Mansion Circle. According to Finney's testimony, 22-year-old Calvin Carter tried to rob him and his friends. There was a struggle over Carter's gun, and it went off, striking Finney in the leg. Finney and his friends restrained Mr. Carter until police arrived. Carter's mugshot shows his face bruised and bloodied. Kristen Keys, driver of an ambulance which crashed and killed a patient passenger, has turned herself in, facing charges of vehicular homicide. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect lots of clouds with some scattered showers out there through your nighttime. Overnight lows closer to 70. For Thursday, a wet day with showers and thunder showers likely. High temperatures closer to 80. For Friday, warm near 85 with another round of showers and storms returning late. Chattanooga's best kept secret is at Boyd Speedway. Come see the Sportsman Dirt Showdown Race number 3 this Saturday night with a bike race for the kids. Tickets and more at BoydSpeedway.net or Boyd Speedway on Facebook. And I'm Source Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. E.J. Pelton Company, 332-3339.
The American dream. Home ownership. Are you building equity for your landlord? Why not build that equity for yourself and your family? Rent No More is a no obligation, no cost program. It's designed to teach you the steps necessary and to coach you all along the path to home ownership. Integrity Mortgage Group is owned and operated by local expert Jeff Woody Woodburn. Jeff has been in the mortgage business for over 15 years. Born and raised right here in the Chattanooga area. Jeff is also known as the Lone Ranger. He's helped countless hundreds. Really eager to help you too. So don't wait. Come on, call Danielle right now. You need to reserve your spot for this exciting, informative event. Space is limited, so call now to reserve yours. It's free. 423-517-8004. 423-517-8004. Call 423-517-8004. Hey, Nooga Radio is proud to partner with Integrity Mortgage Group to bring you Rent No More. Reserve your spot for this exciting, informative event. Space is limited, so call now to reserve yours. It's free. 423-517-8004. 423-517-8004. Call 423-517-8004. Stop building equity for your landlord. Live the American dream. Home ownership with Rent No More. We'll see you there.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Don. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis, you know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is. Brainerd Road, Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better than Hollywood. It's right here. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
You love me. You really love me.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing the new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern. The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
So I have a goal this summer, because summer's just hard on sports people. I have a goal this summer. I'm gonna bring on some more comedians onto the show. I almost had a comedian a couple of months ago. Why comedians? Because comedians have just a different view on life. You have to, in order to find everything funny, you just have to have this different view on life. So I'm going to try and find some comedians in the Chattanooga area. If you want to be on and you want to talk sports here, we can do this. This can happen. So we'll see how we get down here. But I would like to talk about something that is crazy and funny. It's funny all on its own. Right? I'm going to talk about it on the macro level, and we'll get into the micro level with at least one person that we all know. And we all know that I'm not a giant fan of. The macro level is this NBA pre-draft period has been insane. And free agency starts July 1st. So the craziness has happened without free agency. We haven't even been aided by players jumping around and moving, and where's Gordon Hayward going, and is LeBron going to be in LA? And we haven't even gotten to that part yet. We haven't even had the draft yet. And it's just crazy. We've got players bouncing around all over the place like ping pong balls. This is a brief summary of what has happened in NBA free agency so far. Danny Ainge agreed to trade the number 1 overall pick to Philadelphia for the number 3 pick and a future first rounder. Then Paul George decided that he was not going to be in Indiana, that he won't re-sign with the Pacers after this season, and he's going to be going to join the Los Angeles Lakers. Then the Cleveland Cavaliers don't sign their championship-winning general manager, David Griffin. They let him go away. Pau Gasol declines a $16.2 million option for next season. He's going to rework his deal and take less money to help the Spurs create cap space to try and get Chris Paul. Magic Johnson trades D'Angelo Russell to Brooklyn to dump salary. He also sends Timofey Mozgov in his awful contract that direction, and then try to make a run at Paul George and possibly LeBron James in 2018. Atlanta has their homegrown center, Dwight Howard, and they trade him to the Charlotte Hornets for a box of chiclets. And then Phil Jackson decided to be a crazy person and entertain any trade talks for Kristaps Porzingis at all. And the Clippers are thinking about trading DeAndre Jordan, and Jimmy Butler, who previously wanted to leave Chicago, now wants to stay in Chicago. So that's all. These are all of the things that happened since Saturday. It's now Wednesday. The draft is tomorrow. We haven't even gotten to the point where the craziness pays off. Okay? But this is the result of the Warriors and Kevin Durant creating a super team is this. The amount of catch-up that everybody now has to play to catch the Warriors has made the NBA offseason more cutthroat than it's ever been. All of the players from the past can go, yeah, we could beat the Warriors, and we could beat the Warriors, and we're better now than they ever will be, and that's fine. Right? The back in my day conversations are great. Sure. But I dare any general manager from the NBA's past, barring maybe like Jack McCloskey, to talk about what they would do in today's NBA if they were every team not named Golden State. Like, this is the time where we start to see the elite general managers, and we hopefully start to separate the guys who are elite and the guys who are good and the guys who are bad, and start to lose a lot of these guys who are bad, because you will lose an NBA team in an offseason. Right? If players have this level of control, power, and mobility, you can lose the NBA playoffs in a summer. That's where we are now. The NBA offseason is more compelling than the regular season because winning and losing, this is now where it happens. This is now where it starts. If you don't construct a good competitive team here, then you can kiss being a contender goodbye. And I'm talking about for the conference finals. We're not even talking about the NBA finals. We're talking about the conference finals. You can kiss all of that goodbye. And you start to see Rob Pelinka with the Lakers is starting to look like one of those elite guys. Danny Ainge looking like one of those elite guys. And we'll see how it is in Atlanta with Coach Bud. I think Coach Bud did have to move Dwight. He wasn't a good fit in Atlanta. What they want to do and what Dwight Howard does, these are two different things. These are two very, very different things. Dwight Howard is a guy that his best days are behind him. And it's partially his fault and partially not his fault, right? The part where Dwight Howard's best days are behind him, and it is his fault, is that Dwight Howard decided that he wanted to be some kind of offensive player. Dwight Howard decided that he wanted to be like Shaq, be able to put a team on his back and carry them offensively to victory. And he was never that player. Now, he was always capable of having big nights. I remember the night that Dwight Howard scored 60 points in the playoffs. I remember that it was Dwight Howard that took a 60-win LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers team and chucked them out of the playoffs like they were not even there. I remember that. But Dwight Howard was not being relied on to be the big offensive player. And Dwight Howard got obsessed with being famous and being popular and his brand and all of those things. And that, I think, caused him to visualize himself in a way that didn't make any sense. He wanted offenses to run through him. And that doesn't work, right? So you have that part where it's his fault. The league left you by because you were never an offensive guy trying to be out here like an offensive guy. So you've got that. And then you've got the second layer of this. You've got layer number 2, where if you're Dwight Howard, the position that you play doesn't have as much value anymore. Now, this goes back to my analogy with the running back stuff in the last segment, where I was talking to you about how people act like, well, running backs don't have that much value. You just don't need to draft them anymore. It's a guards league, so you don't need big guys. That's not true. You need big guys. Okay? If this were a guards league, the Wizards would be NBA champions. They're very well loaded at guard. They have 2 great guards. They don't have reliable bigs. You need reliable bigs in the NBA. Right? That's where you lose. Now, your bigs have to be able to do different things than what bigs in the past had to. Your bigs do need to be able to shoot 15, 18-footers. Threes would be nice. Your bigs do have to be able to do that, but you still need rim protection. You still need someone who's going to be able to post up and get you a much-needed bucket late in games when a lot of the guard play tightens up and you're not going to get those looks as easily, being able to go down low and get an easy bucket, that still matters. That still means something. So yeah, bigs have lesser value, but you still need them. But the kind of big that Dwight Howard is trying to be, you don't need. Guy that wants 5 or 6 low block touches a quarter and can't shoot 5 feet away from the basket, you don't need that guy. You don't. And Dwight Howard, I heard rumors that Dwight Howard was adding a 3-point shot to his game. And I don't know how that's going to work at all. You mean the same Dwight Howard that has trouble with free throws? Free throws. In a game, he's going to knock down them threes, though. No, that's a dubious proposition at best. Dubious. I'm going to say dubious to be nice. There's another way to describe that, but the FCC won't allow me. The FCC won't allow me to say it the way that I want to say it. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. But I do think that moving Dwight Howard is a great move for Dwight Howard and for Atlanta. We'll see exactly what it does for Charlotte. I honestly couldn't tell you. But simply moving away from Dwight Howard will help Atlanta's offense because it didn't make any sense. Like there were in the Wizards series, there were huge chunks of the games that Atlanta had where they couldn't play Dwight Howard. Right? And Atlanta gets Marco Bellinelli, who's a shooter and will fit in Atlanta. They get Miles Plumlee, who he's pretty decent. I mean, he's not great. And they get the number 41 pick in the NBA draft. And they sent away the number 31 pick. So they don't have to pay Dwight Howard the $47 million that they owe him for the next 2 seasons. They add a shooter to a team that wants that space, that wants that shooting ability in a conference that badly needs it. I think this helps them. I do. Does it catch them up to the Warriors? I mean, no, it doesn't. In fact, I don't even think it catches them up to anybody else that they're behind in the East. I don't think it catches them up to Washington. I don't think it catches them up to Toronto. If Cleveland is able to stay as currently constructed, it definitely doesn't catch them up to Cleveland. I'm not entirely certain what this move does for Atlanta in terms of the giant game of catch-up that the entire NBA is playing. That this vicious, cutthroat, trade-happy, the rumors are everywhere. The rumors are killing me right now. All of this stuff that's happening, I don't know how this fits in with all of this, but I'm telling you, if you're a GM and you are on the bubble and maybe the owner was thinking about not keeping you around, this is the time to earn your paycheck. Because if you don't catch up, if you don't start winning more right away, if you weren't a team that wasn't already rebuilding, right? It's like the rebuilding teams sort of have that excuse already built in. If you weren't one of those teams, this is it. Danny Ainge is making these moves because he has to. Like you were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. We all agree you weren't the best team, but you were the number 1 seed. He's got to. And Masai Ujiri up in Toronto, he better start making some moves because he's got to. What do you do? What do you do with Lowry and DeRozan? Are you going to pay them a combined $137 million? Really? What are you going to do with those guys? Ernie Grunfeld and the Wizards that have no bench. What is he going to do with those guys? Because he's set to pay John Wall the max, the big max, because he made the All-NBA team. He's got to pay Otto Porter the max, the mini max, because it's the rookie contract that he came off of, but you still got to pay him. You still owe money to March and Gortat. Where's this money going to come from? Like if you are a GM in the NBA right now and your team is a top 5 team, either conference, boy, you better be figuring out what to do. Because people don't want to hear about how their team doesn't have a chance to win a title. That's the reason why we all got so mad at Kevin Durant, is that people don't want to hear that their team doesn't have a chance to win a title. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. You're a GM worth your salt. You better be figuring out what to do here. because I don't know what to tell you with regards to making it to the Warriors level. But with all the moves that are being made, if you're a good but not great team, then that good can slide down into average, and that average can slide into bad as teams start leapfrogging you. And honestly, this is how the off seasons of sports ought to be. Fletch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Like, it should be this highly competitive all the time. The competition is important. And this idea that you can somehow lose a title in the summer, it should always have been that way. So you don't have teams that are just stockpiling picks for the future. And like the NBA wants to put an end to tanking. I feel like we are going to put an end to tanking here. Because you've got teams that stink, they'll tank. But the teams that are in the middle, you're more inclined to try. Because your fans are not going to like this idea that, we weren't going to win a title anyway. You're throwing your hands up and giving up. That ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. And another story involving college hoops, which does affect the NBA. Coach K wants one and done to be done. And he doesn't like the perception of himself, Coach K, I mean, as a guy that has sort of become this one and done coach. That's what he's done. He's become a one and done coach. He's believed that he's always gone after the best players, regardless, and that the players of today are just one and done players. That's it. He hasn't changed his stuff, and he believes that, Grant Hill is a guy that's talented enough that Grant Hill would have been a one and done guy if Grant Hill could have been a one and done guy. That just wasn't the incentive back then, so he didn't do it. He had a few two and done players in the 90s, but overwhelmingly no. And then when one and done became a thing, as it were, those are the players that he took on board, and he didn't necessarily have a choice. He just he took what was there, used what was available. What, you don't want to be here all 4 years? Yeah, you go play somewhere else. They pay Coach K to win games. They don't really pay him to stand on his moral high horse. They pay him to win games. And that's what he's gone on and done. But he would rather not have to deal with the one and done headache. And I think that the NBA, developing its development league, right, which they're calling the G League now because it's sponsored by Gatorade, which I do think actually branding wise helps them, because the connotation of the letter D is a failing grade. The D League, oh, he's in the D League. It doesn't feel very good. But if you're a player and you're trying to major in basketball, you should be able to just go to a league that will develop your basketball skills. That should be what it is. Major League Baseball has a minor league. If you go to Major League Baseball and you try and enter the draft, you can enter the draft right away, or you can play in college for 2 years. And those are your two options. And I think that it works out for college baseball, and it works out for Major League Baseball, because then you end up having the guys that choose to go to Major League Baseball right away and wind up playing in the minor leagues. Those are guys that see themselves, or at least have been rated highly enough to be talented enough to go straight and play. And if you don't, well, you can go to college, you can learn a skill that's not baseball in case this whole baseball thing doesn't work out for you. Right? And then if you're a coach, you can plan around building a team with certain guys, and you don't have to worry about them leaving you 1 year after. It works out for you more in your favor. I think the NBA should do that. I think the NBA should say, hey, 2 years. I don't have a problem with the one and done, but I also feel like if a guy thinks he's talented enough to go to the NBA straight out of high school, he should be able to go. I think having a rule that says you have to play here for at least 2 years makes the incentive to go to the developmental league a little bit stronger. And I think we need more of that talent in the developmental league to remove the stigma of, this is just a place that you go when you're not good enough, which is what it feels like. This is kind of where you wind up when you're not very good. So you need to have that, and being able to be in an NBA locker room or being in the developmental locker room, being in a locker room full of men, understanding that, okay, this is real life, will help you grow up faster as a basketball player. I don't necessarily think that it's good for the NBA to use college basketball as its fake developmental league. I don't like that the NFL does it. I think the NFL needs its own development league. But the money works out in the NFL and in college, and you don't have the problems with players trying to go to the NFL straight out of high school, because even if you could, most guys wouldn't be able to. Like you're a scrawny high school guy. There isn't anywhere in the NFL that you could play, that you would fit in, that you would work. You would have to go to college anyway. So it lends itself more naturally to that in college than it does in any other sport, where you could be skinny and scrawny and still play really well in the NBA. And of course, you've got guys like LeBron who were just grown men coming out of high school, so it didn't really bother them at all. But guys like Kobe was scrawny coming out of high school, played incredibly well, caught up quickly. Dwight Howard was skinny coming out of high school, played incredibly well, caught up quickly. It's easier to be in the NBA and play at that high level out of high school than in any other sport. And I think a developmental league would help ease the pressures of it. And coaches don't really like one and done. I think John Calipari is the one guy that doesn't seem to be arguing this. I don't think that you hear his voice among the voices of many coaches saying this is a bad idea. But if you're not John Calipari, you'd like stuff to be something you can plan with. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh-made pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jets Pizza. If you eat out at Jets in Hickson or take home your steaming deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jets. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken, or bread with bacon, antipasta or Greek salad. Jets Pizza at Buy Low near the S curves. Open till 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can order online or have it delivered. jetspizza.com. That's jetspizza.com. Or call them now. They'll have it ready when you get there. 757-1616. That's 757-1616.
Jets Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Jets. Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484. you looking for a gospel-oriented, covenantal, family-friendly Reformed church? Dayton Reformed Presbyterian Church is a body of Christ-centered believers gathering for worship on the Lord's Day from around southeastern Tennessee. Our congregation is reformational in its outlook. It has a traditional worship service regulated by the Word of God. Prayer, singing the Psalms, reading God's holy Word, teaching, preaching the Bible, the administration of the sacrament. Dayton Reformed Pres, committed to the authority of the Bible as the inerrant, infallible Word of God. As Westminster Confession of Faith directs every Christian, we aim to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. As a Reformed church, our purpose is teaching and preaching the gospel, making and training disciples of Jesus Christ, taking dominion for our Lord's sake by applying God's holy and perfect law to every area of life. We would be honored to have you join us for worship. Dayton Reformed Presbyterian. This Sunday morning at 11 at Dayton Community Chapel, 184 Mulberry Avenue, Dayton. Click DaytonRPC.org. Click DaytonRPC.org. 184 Mulberry Avenue, Dayton.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chucked him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
The voice of NASCAR.
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga,
WSDG Sunny Daisy Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Pam Coulter. White House officials are expected on Capitol Hill this evening to discuss the Senate GOP health care bill, as a leaked draft shows the measure eliminates funding for Planned Parenthood. CBS's Stephen Portnoy.
The Senate GOP leader says his bill will be released tomorrow. He aims to have it passed by the end of next week. The president has said he wants a measure that's got heart. It's been reported he called the House-passed bill mean. There are concerns in many states that the House version's wind down of the Medicaid expansion would have a deep impact on those who rely on the program for opioid addiction treatment. The top Senate Republican says his measure will be different, but he hasn't said how.
A Politico survey found only 35% of voters support the House health care bill, 49% disapprove. His agenda overshadowed by the Russia investigation. President Trump is in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for a campaign-style rally.
I was dealt a very difficult hand, believe me, when I took over. Between North Korea, the Middle East, you look at Afghanistan, what's going on there. This was a tough hand. But you put me there for a reason, and I think you're going to be very happy with the end result, believe me.
A Homeland Security official today offered new details on Russia's election meddling.
Deputy Undersecretary Jeanette Manfra acknowledged that 21 states have been confirmed to have been hacked by Russia during last fall's election season, and she says Homeland Security is working with those states to prevent it from happening again.
How do they understand where to engage with us? Where do we engage with them? And how are we able to bring the entire resources of the federal government to bear in helping the state and local officials secure their election systems?
Manfra would not publicly identify those states, much to the dismay of several on the committee. Bill Rakoff, CBS News, Washington.
Approaching the Gulf Coast, Tropical Storm Cindy is producing heavy rain and rough surf. In Alabama, a 10-year-old boy was killed when he was struck by a log carried by a big wave. CBS's Don Champion in Biloxi.
We've definitely been seeing those very heavy and very treacherous, almost blinding rain bands moving into this area. So there has been flash flooding reported in this area. A lot of it has receded a short time after the rain stopped, but that's going to be a big issue moving forward still.
The stabbing of a police officer at the Flint, Michigan airport is being investigated as an act of terrorism, the FBI's David Tulis.
When the subject went up to the officer and stabbed him, he continued to exclaim Allah, and he made a statement something to the effect of, "You have killed people in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and we are all going to die."
The suspect's in custody. The officer is in stable condition. ISIS blew up the mosque in Mosul where the group's leader declared a caliphate, and Iraq's prime minister sees that act as an official admission of defeat by the Islamic State. You're listening to the winner of the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence. This is CBS News.
A few years ago, my wife and I went shopping for amazing quality luxury bedding we could actually afford. And what did we find? Nothing. Hi, I'm Scott Tannen. Missy and I started Boll & Branch because we want you to be able to afford the best bedding in the world. By cutting out the middlemen and only selling online at bollandbranch.com, our award-winning sheets cost less than half of designer brands and are twice the quality. Every set is crafted from 100% organic cotton. They get softer and softer over time. That's why we have thousands of five-star reviews, and even 3 U.S. presidents have Boll & Branch sheets. There's no risk. Try them for 30 nights. If you don't love them, send them back for a full refund. Go to bollandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set of sheets, plus free shipping when you use promo code SLEEP. That's $50 off, plus free shipping right now at bollandbranch.com. Promo code SLEEP. bollandbranch.com, spelled BOLL, and branch.com. Promo code SLEEP.
American cars have improved quality compared to most foreign competitors.
Domestic brands, in general, are doing better than imports when it comes to quality, says J.D. Power Vice President David Sargent. But it's a Korean brand, Kia, that takes the overall crown.
When they first came to the US in the first few years, they were actually bottom of the industry, and now for the 2 years in a row, they've been top. So that's a remarkable turnaround.
Sargent says J.D. Power is seeing fewer complaints on connectivity technology, but they're starting to see concerns raised about issues with crash prevention technology. Jeff Gilbert, CBS News, Detroit.
Yale University searching for a replacement for the dean who posted offensive reviews on Yelp. Pearson College Dean June Chu issued a public apology for the reviews, including when they called customers of a local restaurant white trash. She also described movie theater workers as barely educated morons. She went on leave when the reviews began circulating on campus.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Cops say the double homicide at the Highland Memorial Gardens is believed to be gang-related. 2 bodies were discovered in the cemetery by former city councilman Manny Rico. Mr. Rico thought at first they were 2 workers sleeping, but on closer inspection it became obvious they had been punctured by hot lead. Families of the victims identify them as 20-year-old Thomas Holder and 17-year-old Rayshawn Underwood. The CPD called in the police academy cadets to help search the crime scene for evidence. 19-year-old Shane Finney was shot in the leg while trying to restrain a man he says attacked him and his friends at his home in Mansion Circle. According to Finney's testimony, 22-year-old Calvin Carter tried to rob him and his friends. There was a struggle over Carter's gun, and it went off, striking Finney in the leg. Finney and his friends restrained Mr. Carter until police arrived. Carter's mugshot shows his face bruised and bloodied. Kristen Keys, driver of an ambulance which crashed and killed a patient passenger, has turned herself in, facing charges of vehicular homicide. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Issue, because as you just heard Alex Jones and Gary Haven say, there's a bias in these voting machines, again, for Hillary Clinton of about 9 points. It's very easy to rig an election. And we have to understand, when we see the Department of Homeland Security under Jay Johnson try to intrude into state departments of election, we have to understand this kind of fraud, unlike the types of election fraud that we've seen before, this type of fraud is enterprise expandable, as they would say. They can take it down to any particular race that they want, and they can rig any particular race that they want as long as we computerize this. It's not going to be safe from enemies, foreign or domestic. And we've seen, I think, attempts by the Obama administration to rig this election. That's what these hearings are about today, to not only cover that up and move people away from it, but then to create this false Russian narrative to insinuate themselves into the State Board of Elections, calling it critical infrastructure. And in reaction to what they found in Indiana, you had the state boards of elections, the state attorney, secretaries of state from various states all called on the Trump administration to shut this down. Do not allow Homeland Security to declare this as critical infrastructure. So this is a dog and pony show to push that forward with their false narrative, their false flag, if you will. But that's what they're trying to do besides covering up their own crime.
This is 100% a false flag, the Russian hacking claim. And that critical infrastructure thing is so key because Johnson piped that in all the time. Critical infrastructure, critical infrastructure, critical infrastructure. So they clearly want to do that so they can have complete control over our elections and probably just completely rig them. But here were some interesting quotes from some people that came out of today. First of all, you've got Johnson engaging in full-on lawyer speak, saying, this isn't the exact quote, but I'm sure we can find the clip. He said, perhaps it could be without reasonable doubt that Russia hacked the DNC. Perhaps. So he puts all these, qualitatives out there like, oh, maybe it could be Russia. But then it's that subconscious inserting that Russia hacked the DNC to just force that into the narrative, even though it's total lawyer talk. He knows it's not true. He continues to cite Russia probing, but saying no election hack. What is this probing? What is this probing? What are they doing probing? What do you mean they're probing? Nobody's probing. You're the ones that are probing because you're trying to rig the election. Then you've got Eric Swalwell. This is unbelievable.
We talk about probing. It was 14,800 scans just into Indiana between November the 1st to December 16th. And it was the Department of Homeland Security.
Exactly. So they're the ones probing, putting the Russian fingerprints out.
The people who met at the end of February cited that. They were members of the National Association of Secretaries of State. They voted, all these Secretary of States from all these different states said they want President Trump to overturn this designation of critical infrastructure because they did not want the feds to insert themselves into the state computer voting systems.
This is how big of a joke these people are, though. Eric Swalwell, Democrat from California, he's bashing Trump with all of his time. They're apparently looking into Russia hacking. He uses his time to bash Trump. He bashes Trump for his rigged election claim. This is on the next day of them doing the survey, finding out that illegals are voting. He's bashing Trump for the rigged election claim. Then, David, he's using his time to claim Russia rigged the election. So Eric Swalwell is making fun of Trump, saying that elections are rigged. Then he uses the rest of his time to insinuate that Russia rigged the election. You've never seen anything like this before. Denny Hack, another Democrat, this one from Washington, saying Russia will be back, saying that it's the free and open elections. That's why the DNC got sued, because they hacked it. But he's saying, no, that's why the Democrats are acting so violently. That's why they're not accepting the elections, because we don't have free and open elections. The Russian hacked it. Unbelievable. We'll be right back. Joe Biggs, Gary Haven, Owen Shore, David Knight, Alex Jones Show.
Leftists in Europe carried out 27 terror attacks in 2016, which debunks the claim that conservatives and libertarians represent a bigger extremist threat. Over 140 terrorist attacks occurred in Europe last year, and 27 of them were blamed on leftists. In comparison, just one right-wing terror attack was recorded for the entire year. 13 attacks were blamed on jihadis, while the majority of the attacks, nearly 100, were by separatist movements. Terrorist attacks which led to deaths and injuries are almost exclusively Islamic. And guess who advocates open borders and radical Islam? It's the left. The statistics disprove the narrative that conservatives and libertarians represent a major terrorist threat, a claim the mainstream media was pushing after the recent attack on Muslims near a mosque in London. The study came from Europol, a law enforcement agency of the European Union tasked with combating organized crime and terrorism. Additionally, terror experts in the U.S. are also warning that left-wing terror represents a far bigger concern than ever before, which isn't surprising given how the establishment keeps promoting violence against President Trump. You can find out more at Infowars.com. This is Kit Daniels reporting.
After being sold out for months, our best-selling Super Blue Fluoride toothpaste is now back in stock at InfoWarsStore.com. The first shipment of Super Blue sold out in 1 week. I thought it would be a 6-month supply for listeners. And since then, people are beating down our doors wanting to be able to resupply their Super Blue. Research across the board is clear. In fact, it's certified. When bacteria infects your gums, it can enter your bloodstream and even contribute to blood clots and heart attacks. That's why the last Surgeon General's report on oral health warns that your oral health can have a serious impact on your entire body. Super Blue Fluoride-Free Toothpaste is a groundbreaking new formula. It's loaded with good halogen iodide instead of the bad halogen fluoride. Super Blue contains natural oils and ingredients used since biblical times to help wipe out bad bacteria and eliminate bad breath. Just some of the ingredients in Super Blue, chosen by our dental experts, include xylitol, peppermint oil, iodine, nano silver, and more. Learn more about InfoWars Life Super Blue Toothpaste at InfoWarsLife.com and support the InfoWar while you support healthy gums and teeth. Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our Immune Support Infusion Blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com.